You know what I've been thinking about lately? I've been thinking about all the ways people waste their money. And let me tell you something. It is not what you think it is. Everyone's got these ideas about frugality, about saving money, about cutting back on lattes or whatever the financial gurus are telling you to do this week. But they're missing the whole point, completely missing it. I'm 99 years old now, and I've watched people make the same stupid mistakes with money for nearly a century. The same mistakes over and over and over again. And you want to know what the really tragic part is. Most of these mistakes aren't even about the money itself. They're about how people think, or more accurately, how they don't think. Let me take you back to something Warren said once, and it stuck with me because it is so perfectly illustrative of what I'm talking about. When Warren had his first child, he transformed a dresser into a crib for the baby. When he had his second child, he borrowed a crib from a friend. Now, most people hear that story and they think, oh, Warren Buffett is cheap. But that is not what is happening there at all. What is happening is Warren's asking himself a question that most people never ask. Why buy something new when you don't need to? And that question, that simple question, it gets to the heart of everything I want to talk to you about today. Because it is not really a question about money at all. It is a question about rationality. Being rational is a moral imperative. You know that you should never be stupider than you need to be. And yet, look around you, what do you see? People being stupider than they need to be every single day. I remember back in Omaha decades ago now, there was this young lawyer who came to see me. Sharp kid, went to all the right schools, had all the credentials. And he is driving this brand new car, wearing an expensive suit, talking about his investment portfolio. And I'm sitting there listening to him, and I'm thinking, this kid is going to be broke in 10 years. Want to know why? Because he was confusing looking successful with being successful. The desire to get rich fast is pretty dangerous. Always has been, always will be. But you know what is even more dangerous? The desire to look rich right now. That'll kill you financially faster than almost anything else. So let me talk to you about some of the ways I see people destroying their financial futures. And more importantly, why they do it. Because if you don't understand the why, knowing the what doesn't do you any good. First thing, and this is going to sound simple, but stay with me, people buy new things when they don't need to. Now, I'm not talking about necessities. I'm talking about this constant upgrading, this perpetual consumption. You see it everywhere. New phone every year, new car every 3 years, new clothes every season. Why? Here's what I learned from watching people accumulate wealth over 70, 80 years. The wealthy buy things that go up in value or produce income. Everything else they buy used or they don't buy at all. Sounds harsh maybe, but it works. I guarantee you it works. I've never paid any attention to my health. I've never done any exercise I didn't want to do. I eat whatever I want to eat. And at 99 years old, I'm still here. Why am I telling you this? Because I want you to understand something fundamental about how I think. I don't do things because other people say I should. I do things because they make rational sense, and buying brand new things when perfectly good used alternatives exist. That doesn't make rational sense. That is just responding to social pressure and advertising. And if you can't resist social pressure and advertising, you're going to have a very hard time building wealth. Let me tell you about smoking for a second, because this illustrates something important. Warren never smoked a cigarette in his life, even though he was alive during a time when it was much more commonplace. Now, why is that important from a financial perspective? Because smoking isn't just bad for your health. It is a perfect example of a recurring expense that compounds against you. If you're spending, let's say, $15 a day on cigarettes, that is $450 a month. Now, most people, they look at that and think, okay, $450 a month, that is not great, but it is manageable. But that is not how I look at it. You know how I look at it. I look at what that money could have been worth if you'd invested it instead. $450 a month, invested at even a modest return over 30 years. You're looking at several $100,000. That is not chump change. That is the difference between a comfortable retirement and wondering if you can afford your medications. But here is the thing. And this is what most financial advisors won't tell you. It is not really about the cigarettes. It is about the pattern of thinking that allows you to spend money on something that is actively destroying value. It is about being unable to delay gratification. It is about choosing immediate pleasure over long-term benefit. You know what the most important quality for an investor is? Warren says it isn't intellect, it is temperament. And he is absolutely right. You need a temperament that neither derives great pleasure from being with the crowd or against the crowd. And that applies to how you spend money too. Junk food, gambling, fancy restaurants, bars, new gadgets. You notice what all these things have in common. They're all about immediate gratification. They're all about feeling good right now, today, this minute. And look, I'm not saying you should deny yourself every pleasure in life. That is not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is that most people, they don't even think about it. They just spend reflexively. Someone offers them a lottery ticket, they buy it. They walk past a restaurant, they go in. They see a new gadget advertised, they order it. There is no thought process happening there. No rational decision making. I don't care if somebody makes a lot of money and holds it like a miser. Most people have a vast propensity to spend, helped by spouses and children. And you know what? That is fine. Spending money isn't the problem. Spending money without thinking is the problem. Let me talk about something that really gets me worked up: credit cards. The ease with which people can spend money they don't have. It has created this whole generation of people who have no idea what they actually own. It is easy to forget that the money you spend on a credit card isn't yours. It is loaned to you. And any money that is loaned is money you'll not only have to pay back, but pay back with interest. Now, here is where it gets really destructive. You buy something for $1,000 with your credit card and you don't pay it back immediately. You're going to end up paying well over $1,000 because of the interest. You're paying extra for the privilege of having something now instead of later. Does that make any sense? Of course it doesn't make sense. Warren, he sticks to cash, and you know why. Because cash is real, you can see it, you can feel it. When it is gone, it is gone. Credit cards create this illusion that money is infinite, and that illusion will destroy you financially. I've been thinking a lot lately about what it means to live a good life, especially as I get closer to the end of mine. And one thing I've realized is that the best armor of old age is a well-spent life preceding it. But what does well-spent mean? Does it mean you spent a lot of money, accumulated a lot of possessions, went to a lot of expensive restaurants? I don't think so. I think a well-spent life is one where you made rational decisions, where you didn't let social pressure or advertising or fear of missing out dictate your choices, where you asked yourself before every purchase, do I really need this? Will it make my life measurably better, or am I just responding to some psychological trigger that marketers have learned to exploit? Mozart, brilliant musician, maybe the best innate musical talent ever. But you know what? From the start, he was pretty miserable. He overspent his income his entire life, and that will make you miserable. Doesn't matter how talented you are. Doesn't matter how much money you make. If you spend more than you earn, you will be miserable. Let me tell you about personal products for a minute, because this is an area where I see so much waste it is almost comical. Perfumes, makeup, skincare, shaving products, all of it. Warren never buys any personal products, and he is over 90 years old. Now, am I saying you should never buy soap? Of course not. But do you really need 17 different skincare products? Do you really need to spend hundreds of dollars a month on cosmetics? Ask yourself what you really need to get the desired result, and then cut everything else. Even a 25% cut can make a huge difference. But most people, they never even think about it. They just buy what they've always bought, what the commercials tell them to buy. You want to know one of the best tricks I ever learned? I'll tell you 3 rules for a career. 1, don't sell anything you wouldn't buy yourself. 2, don't work for anyone you don't respect and admire. 3, work only with people you enjoy. Now, you might be thinking, Charlie, what does that have to do with spending money? Everything. It has everything to do with it, because if you follow those 3 rules, you'll end up in a situation where you're earning good money doing something you actually like. And when you're earning good money doing something you like, you don't need to buy a bunch of stuff to make yourself feel better about your job. You don't need retail therapy because your work life is miserable. I spent my whole career working with people I liked and respected. Warren and we've been partners for 60 years now, more than that, and you know why it has worked. because we enjoy each other's company. We respect each other's minds. We trust each other completely. The highest form that civilization can reach is a seamless web of deserved trust. Not much procedure, just totally reliable people correctly trusting one another. And in your own life, what you want is a seamless web of deserved trust. And if your proposed marriage contract has 47 pages, I suggest you not enter. You know what that means in practical terms. It means surrounding yourself with people who aren't going to pressure you to spend money on stupid things. It means marrying someone who shares your values about money. It means cutting out of your life the people who are always trying to keep up with the Joneses and expect you to do the same. Oh, it is just so useful dealing with people you can trust and getting all the others the hell out of your life. It ought to be taught as a catechism. Wise people want to avoid other people who are just total rat poison, and there are a lot of them. Let me talk about cars for a minute, because this is one of the most egregious ways people waste money. Leasing a new car every few years. It is financial suicide. You're paying a large sum every month for an asset that is constantly depreciating in value. In other words, it is money you'll never see back. Warren drives a used car. And you want to know why? Because a used car works just as well as a new car, but for a significantly cheaper price. A car gets you from point A to point B. That is its function. It doesn't matter if it is this year's model or last decade's model as long as it is reliable. But people, they don't think about cars as transportation. They think about cars as status symbols. They think about cars as expressions of their personality. They think about cars as all sorts of things except what they actually are, which is depreciating assets. I remember the 5-cent hamburger and the 40-cent per hour minimum wage. I've seen a tremendous amount of inflation in my lifetime. Did it ruin the investment climate? I think not. You know why? Because if you make rational decisions, if you invest in good businesses and don't waste money on depreciating assets, inflation doesn't matter. Clothes are another one. Did you know that Warren gets his suits from a seamstress named Madam Lee? Never heard of her, neither have most people. And that is the point. Warren doesn't pay for brand names. He pays for quality and fit. To him, clothes are simply to be worn. If he looks good and feels good, there is no need to spend tons of money. But you walk into any shopping mall, and what do you see? People spending hundreds, thousands of dollars on brand name clothes. Why? Because of a logo. Because of what other people might think. That is not rational. That is responding to social pressure. You can shop at stores that offer high-quality fashion for cheap, or if you really love brand names, you can rent clothes for special occasions. But buying expensive brand name clothes just to wear them around, that is burning money. New gadgets and devices. This is another area where I see people just hemorrhaging money. The rate at which technology is growing is astounding, and so is the rate at which people spend on new products every year. A new iPhone can cost over $1,000. Now imagine paying that every year. Imagine what you could do with an extra $1,000 every year, but people don't think about it that way. They think, I need the latest phone. Why? Does the new phone make calls better than the old phone? Does it send emails better? Or are you just responding to marketing and social pressure? I like people admitting they were complete stupid horses' asses. I know I'll perform better if I rub my nose in my mistakes. This is a wonderful trick to learn. And you know what? One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is not admitting when they're wasting money. They'll spend hundreds of dollars on things they don't need. And then when someone points it out, they get defensive. I work hard, I deserve it. It makes me happy. You only live once. All the excuses, all the rationalizations. There is no way that you can live an adequate life without many mistakes. In fact, one trick in life is to get so you can handle mistakes. Failure to handle psychological denial is a common way for people to go broke. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at your spending over the last month. Really look at it. Every transaction, every purchase, and for each one I want you to ask yourself, was this rational? Did this actually improve my life? Or was this just me responding to advertising or social pressure or some momentary emotional state? I think the attitude of Epictetus is the best. He thought that every mischance in life was an opportunity to behave well. Every missed chance in life was an opportunity to learn something, and that your duty was not to be submerged in self-pity, but to utilize the terrible blow in constructive fashion. That is a very good idea. What does that mean for spending money? It means that every time you're tempted to buy something you don't need, you have an opportunity to exercise discipline, to practice rationality, to build the mental muscles that will serve you for the rest of your life. The best investment you can make is in yourself. Essentially, the more you know, the more you'll be able to do, and the more you'll be able to save. You could read investment books, personal finance books, watch educational content, learn as much as possible about how to become financially independent. But most people, they don't want to invest in themselves. They want immediate gratification. They want to feel good now, today, this minute. And so they spend money on things that depreciate, on experiences that fade, on status symbols that mean nothing. In my whole life, I have known no wise people who didn't read all the time, none, zero. You'd be amazed at how much Warren reads and how much I read. My children laugh at me. They think I'm a book with a couple of legs sticking out. You know what books cost? Almost nothing. You know what you can learn from books? Almost everything. And yet people will spend hundreds of dollars on a night out, but they won't spend $20 on a book that could change their entire financial future, drinking at bars or restaurants. Let me talk about that for a minute. Alcohol is enjoyable to many people. It is part of a great experience during a night out. But buying drinks at a bar or restaurant is an extremely easy way to spend over $100 in a single night. There is a reason Warren doesn't drink. Bars and restaurants have many expenses to pay, so it is normal for the price of alcohol to be 3 to 4 times the amount you can buy in a store. Now, I'm not saying never go out. I'm saying be conscious of what you're doing. If you want to drink, drink at home before you go out and have fun, or find a way to squeeze it into your budget by limiting other expenses. But most people, they don't budget at all. They just spend. And then at the end of the month, they wonder where all their money went. Subscriptions, here is another one that kills people. Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, all these streaming services, they add up very quickly. And most people don't even use half of them. But they keep paying because it is automatic. It is convenient. They don't even think about it. Never use automatic subscriptions. Make yourself manually pay for everything. That way, you're forced to think about whether you're actually using it, whether it is actually providing value. If you don't use a service at least once a week, cancel it. Gym memberships, same thing. People buy a membership with the best intentions, work out for a few weeks, then forget about it. But they keep paying month after month. If you're not going to commit to using a gym, don't buy a membership. Start with free exercises like walking, hiking, or calisthenics. You know what all of this comes down to? Awareness, consciousness, rationality, being present in your financial life instead of just sleepwalking through it. I constantly see people rise in life who are not the smartest, sometimes not even the most diligent, but they are learning machines. They go to bed every night a little wiser than they were when they got up. And boy, does that help. Particularly when you have a long run ahead of you, and you know what makes you wiser, making mistakes and learning from them. Spending money on something stupid, recognizing that it was stupid, and never doing it again. That is how you build financial wisdom. But you have to be willing to admit the mistakes. You have to be willing to look at your spending and say, that was dumb, that was irrational, that was me responding to social pressure instead of thinking clearly. One of the great defenses, if you're worried about inflation, is not to have a lot of silly needs in your life. If you don't need a lot of material goods, inflation can't hurt you as much. I don't think it is terribly constructive to spend your time worrying about things you can't fix. As long as when you are managing your money, you recognize that terrible things are going to happen. In the rest of your life, you can be a foolish optimist. What terrible things? Recessions, market crashes, job losses, health emergencies, all of it. But if you've been living below your means, if you've been saving consistently, if you haven't wasted money on stupid things, then when those terrible things happen, you'll be okay, more than okay. You'll be in a position to take advantage of opportunities that other people can't. Envy and jealousy, these are 2 of the 10 commandments. Those of you who have raised children, you know about envy. Warren says it all the time, it is not greed that drives the world, but envy. And that is what drives so much wasteful spending. Envy your neighbor gets a new car. You want a new car. Your colleague takes an expensive vacation. You want an expensive vacation. Your friend buys a bigger house. You want a bigger house. But here is what I want you to understand. Those people, the ones you're envying, they're probably in debt up to their eyeballs. They're probably stressed about money. They're probably one emergency away from financial catastrophe. Is that really what you want to emulate? Spend each day trying to be a little wiser than you were when you woke up. Discharge your duties faithfully and well. Slug it out 1 inch at a time, day by day. At the end of the day, if you live long enough, most people get what they deserve. You deserve financial security. Then make rational decisions with your money. You deserve wealth. Then invest instead of consume. You deserve a comfortable retirement. Then live below your means for decades. It is not complicated. It has never been complicated. What it is hard, because it requires you to go against the crowd. It requires you to resist advertising and social pressure. It requires you to delay gratification. It requires you to think. But that is the price of financial success. That has always been the price. And if you're not willing to pay it, well, then don't complain when you end up broke. I'm 99 years old. I've seen it all. I've watched people make fortunes and lose fortunes. I've watched people retire comfortably and watched people work until they died because they had no choice. And you know what the difference was? The difference was rationality. The difference was discipline. The difference was being willing to ask yourself before every purchase, is this smart or is this stupid? That is all I've got for you today. Think about it. Really think about it.